This is Smart Investing with Mike.wren.
Securities and advisory service offered through KMS Financial Services.
This is Smart Investing with Michael J. Wren. With Michael's producer, Chris Martin. You can email us your questions. Go to smartinvestingshow.com to see how.
For I have the pride, the privilege, nay, the pleasure of introducing to you the one, the only.
This is Smart Investing with Mike.wren.
Well, hello, everybody out there. You have downloaded or pressed play on another episode, another show of the Smart Investing Show, where we try to take the topic of investing. Number one, we try to get you good, relevant information on each and every show. Number two, we try to make this world of investing and investments easier to understand. And thirdly, we try to be entertaining. And with that, it's me. No, it's actually Chris. I'm the producer extraordinaire, Mr. Chris Martin, on the other side of the kitchen table from me. How are we doing today?
It's rough.
It's rough for me, too. I texted Chris earlier this morning. I said, hey, man, can you be like 10 minutes later if it's possible? And he responds back, I'm running late myself. And it's like, oh, there is a God. There are spirits out there.
No, my wife left for the coast for a couple of days, and I'm taking care of the dogs.
This happens periodically, right?
Yeah. And then, so this morning...
You can tell he's so happy about it.
I hate doing it. I'd rather just have like one gerbil.
Happy morning, everybody.
The one dog comes out, I'm like, get outside, get outside. What, 2 feet from the door? It just pukes up something. I don't know what it is. And it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. Just not ready for it.
The life of a famous dog breeder.
Celebrities are just like us.
Well, I got to tell you, we're broadcasting this morning or recording this show, and outside looks like it's Fargo, North Dakota, man. It looks pretty inhospitable, doesn't it?
It's going to be this way all week.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, thanks for the good news, bro.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's the mist.
Well, no, you call mist.
Mist is
the ocean. Mist is the ocean. This is just fog and probably one of those lovely Aaron versions that we get in this. I'm moving my microphone, everybody. Click. We probably are getting an Aaron version,
Yeah.
which is...
I was hoping for a more science fiction-y type thing.
I'm just thinking
I really could use an end-of-the-world scenario right now to shake up my day.
or just reality. One of your teenage kids crop dusts you and it never leaves quick enough. That's what the air outside looks like right now.
That's another thing. So we blew a fuse somewhere, and there's some lighting issues that I got going on at my house. And one of the lighting problems is in the laundry room.
Which wing?
Yeah,
Which wing?
The east wing, where the laundry center is. And so it's dark in there, but I can still see roughly. So I'm picking up clothes and I'm putting them in the washer. And my boy's underwear. He's 19. It's just, I couldn't get my hand clean enough from from the bottom of the washer. I put it into the washer, and after that, I just felt like my whole hand, I should sandblast it.
Maybe you should be like a mechanic like me and just get those disposable gloves. And if you get the black ones, you look like a killer when you're walking around. It's kind of nice.
That'd be
you walk
nice.
out of the garage with these black latex gloves and people, or non-latex, whatever. The neighbors look, they give you kind of two takes.
And a hospital mask would also be really, I'll just wear everything.
Welding helmet.
Well, just go to Walmart shopping with a welding helmet and rubber gloves. Where's your bleach aisle?
Yeah.
And I need lots of lotion.
Oh, man. So anyway, last week's show I think might have been pretty good. At least I felt good about doing it because it was about the psychological aspects of investing. And I think that's typically, unless we're doing an expose on a company, I think that's where the best shows may come from because it is where somebody can identify, I think, the most easy with themselves. It's a story that people can relate to. I think...
Well, it's not like we're sitting here on a show going, okay, so for you people that are investing $2 million last week, and that cuts off a few people.
Yeah, it does. Point number one. Let me start out with this because I started last week's show with three topics, and we talked about the third one. The first issue was people talk about being in the market or not. What does it mean? What do people think it means? So that word, the quotation marks, in the market. a lot of people will use that as a cultural way to start a sentence or a conversation, and it kind of skews the actual meaning of the meaning. The second issue is that I've heard many people say that they should have an X amount in bonds or in the bond market. And in other words, that same amount shouldn't be in the market. So you see how both of those two issues are kind of related to one another. It's what is the market, blah, 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 and things like that. And so that's what goes on there. What I ended up talking about last week was how super memories are being accessed when people look back at 2008 in their statements. And if you didn't listen to the show prior to this, did you download it on the site already?
Yes, it's available now.
Okay. That show hashes through the very, very common emotions that happen when somebody gets panicked out of the market, when they endure what they feel is so much emotional pain and anxiety that they feel that they're forced to sell their investments. And then that is a bad decision. Well, maybe it's not a bad decision, but let's just say it's not a positive one. It's not like, hey, you just found $100. That's a positive thing. Right. It's not a positive event. It's like, hey, your child just got accepted to a college that you like instead of Joe's Guitar School. It's like, okay, that's a positive thing. Just making a decision to stop the pain, there's some positive aspects to it, but my take on it is that it's not way up high on the thermometer of a feel-good situation. You're just simply removing something that was painful, that you think was painful. Maybe it actually wasn't, but your interpretation of it was painful. And now you kind of get the feeling, oh, at least I'm not having to deal with that anymore. And then, since the situation started that way based on anxiety, there's always anxiety with it. You're looking at whatever your investments might have done, and then people only will buy back in well and truly after their investments have recovered to the original amount and probably even gone past the point because they think that they've been too late, or they think that they've missed the easy money, or they think that pretty soon the market's going to go down again. And then they are forced by pain that they think that they're feeling, to buy back in. Both of those situations are fueled by anxiety and trying to avoid something that you think's hurting you. So one thing is that there's a couple things going on. We won't try to number them. One thing is not knowing what truly causes pain. You're not getting an injection. This isn't causing a bruise on your body. It's not like Chris's home life, It's
unless my wife goes, "You invested in what?"
Yeah, so
honey, that flamingo farm is a good idea.
So that's it's not true pain in sense of sensory, the sensation of touch. So you got to kind of wipe that out of your vocabulary. You've got to call it something, a more accurate statement, I think, to yourself. So it starts with that, and then I've kind of lost my train of thought here. But then it goes from the pain situation that you're reacting. That's where I was wanting to go. You're reacting to the world. And I think from my own personal experience, I have to be in a certain mood to react well to things coming up. In fact, being at the office, I know that I am I'm in different moods. Everybody's in different moods. In certain moods, I think that I answer my phone happier than other moods.
Yeah.
Okay? I think everybody's...
That's with anybody.
But you have to pay attention to that because the frame of mind that you're in matters a hell of a lot. What typically drives me crazy a lot of the time is when I feel like when I'm not the captain of my own ship, when it feels like I'm reacting to the world at every turn, where I don't get any freedom of choice or freedom of movement, freedom of thought, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Mm-hmm. The traffic is impeding me. Other people are impeding me. To-do items, little to-do customer service items are impeding me. The internet went down, which is impeding me from getting something. You're having to react to situations. I think it's much more of a relaxing mental state when you feel that you're not reacting to everything, that you kind of are the captain of your own ship, that you are kind of proactive instead of reactive. And of course, we all have to react to things during the day and during life, but it's nice to have a little bit of proactiveness. Now, it's like people are probably rolling their eyes. Jesus Christ, Mike, where are you going with this? You know?
Well, no, I see where you're going with it.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, before I've gotten on stage a couple of times, something like I'll get a text or something like right before, and I can tell. I'll watch back or listen back, and it wasn't as good as if I just because I'm in that reaction mode.
Yeah,
and so your mind isn't there. So you just
you can't think it
I need a win.
You can't think of two things at the same time. Nobody can.
Right.
Yeah. So reacting is different than being proactive. Another point that I want to bring up, believe me, I'll knit these things together. It's scientifically proven that if you exercise enough, it changes the physiology of your body in some ways. If you do an MRI of a person's heart, the heart of a bicyclist will look different than somebody that sits on the couch, but it also will look different than a weightlifter. Okay? So different exercises model your physical body in different ways that can be scientifically proven with empirical data. It's not up for discussion. It's just fact. The same thing I think people don't realize happens with your brain. I'm not going to give you the chapter and verse of the studies, but I'm sure that if you Google this, if you Google, does my brain change after meditation? I forget the amount of time, but it's proven that a person's brain will change after a certain amount of time if you've practiced some, probably many different forms of meditation. Okay? Meditation is probably very, very unique, like somebody's fingerprint, to where we can give everybody a guideline to that, but it's different for everybody. And I feel people rolling their eyes again. That's supposed to be a finance show. I'm going to knit the circle together real soon. So, meditation has been explained to me is that you're trying to be self-aware exactly in the moment. Like you feel the sand underneath your feet, the rug underneath your feet, the hardwood floor. You feel the body weight pressing on your butt bones in the chair, or maybe you're sitting cross-legged. And then if you're thinking of those things, you're thinking in the moment, so you can't think, for example, the text that just came to you, like in Chris's example. You're thinking just of those things. So you're purposely having your brain focus on something that is almost meaningless, but it's meaningless in the moment. So it's kind of clearing the screen, clearing the slate. Then imagine you're looking at a highway. And imagine the highway is not cars and trucks, it's your thoughts. And you're looking at those thoughts, okay? And you're just acknowledging them. You can think about the fight with your spouse, Well, just acknowledge it. Say, yeah, I'm thinking about that fight, and let it go past and see if there's any other thoughts. Play that game with yourself. Okay? That is a form of meditation. And it's proven scientifically with empirical data that over a certain amount of time, just being aware of your thoughts, kind of separating yourself, thinking of your thoughts as subjects instead of things that produce anxiety, it causes your brain to change. Different areas in the brain will become more active, and other areas in the brain will become less active. And it's typically proven that the areas in the brain that become less active are the ones that are anxiety producing. So it's kind of like those cholesterol medicines or different exercises and food groups that not only lower your bad cholesterol, they up the good cholesterol. That's what we're trying to do here with your brain. Why am I talking about this? Well, because investing with hard-earned money is an emotional issue. And many, many times when you approach it with a bit too much emotion, you're going to behave badly. You're going to behave in a way, not badly, but you're going to behave in a non-profitable way because your brain, being a mammalian animal brain, is thinking of survival. Money isn't a survival issue per se. You're kind of making a life and death situation when one doesn't exist. Like the word pain, me wanting to say, no, you really weren't in pain. That's really not an accurate word. It had have to be disappointed or, self-loathing or something like that. You didn't have pain inflicted upon you. It may sound really, really stupid listening to this podcast and that coming up, but it makes a difference. It makes a difference that you tell yourself an accurate story. Just like the word normal. If I was to tell you that the market correction in 2008 was a normal event, how many of you automatically think in your head that normal means frequent? It doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with frequency. It just means that it's a normal event. Just death. Death is normal. It's only going to happen to a person once. So doesn't happen all the time. But it's completely normal. You see how? But I'm sure that several people, 4 of the 8 people listening to the podcast right now, I'm sure 4 of the 8, when I say the word normal market decline, you kind of interpret that as frequent, and it's not. That's what kind of screws with everybody. They're thinking of 2008 as something that happens frequently. No, it's not. Is it something that happens in the normal course of historical events when you're an investor and dealing with capital markets? Yes, quite. Very much quite. You had the Great Depression, and you probably had 15 or 16 bad market shocks just like those prior to the Great Depression in 2008. It wasn't even in the Great Depression. That's a different issue from the stock market crash in 1929. So I even kind of messed it up there. Okay, when you start telling yourself an accurate story, when you're searching for accuracy, right then and there, you're kind of removing a little bit of emotion. And that's extremely helpful because then you're getting accuracy and you're removing some of the emotion. If you combine that with a little bit of being proactive instead of reactive, if you combine that with being just a little bit more self-aware of the thoughts that you have about money versus the thoughts of other things, we're setting you up for success. You finally might know yourself. Why is that? Go ahead.
I think you get a little more confidence because you're somewhat in charge of what's going on.
Exactly. So if you feel that you're in charge, that statement that you get in the mail or the balance that you see on the internet doesn't control you. You're controlling the balance. The balance isn't controlling you. This is a hell of a lot more helpful than the insurance people out there trying to tell you that you should be fearful and we have a product that will make you feel less fearful. It'd be like people know, there's not a pill that causes you to lose weight that's healthy. And even if there was, then you are pretty much, you are owned by that drug for the rest of your life.
So you're saying the 15 giant pills that I take that have green tea in them, it's not doing me any good?
Well, even if it did, you're depending on them instead of yourself.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to exercise. You've seen me.
Oh,
I'd much rather just put my faith in a pill.
If there's one thing that the United States is, it's independent. There's probably less independent thought than there used to be, but when you compare it to the rest of the world, there's still a gob of independent thought. So people like to be independent. They like to control their own destiny. This is one of the ways that you can control your destiny. And if you're listening to the podcast, we know a couple things. That you are looking for information on investing, and that if you found this podcast, you're looking pretty hard because this podcast isn't widely listened to. So you found this by digging for gems.
We're under the radar, man. We're off the grid.
Yeah. So you found it. So that's a good thing. So let me try to even weave more investing into this now. Many times people will come into my office and they'll say, I've heard, or current clients, they'll say that I've heard that I should have more bonds than stock, or when I'm a certain age, I should invest this way. Number one, who's telling you this? Is it a successful person? Is it a successful investor? I can tell you straight away, it's not a business owner. A business owner doesn't care how you invest. They can just tell you how to run a good business, and if you have a good business, it's probably worth something later on in life if you wish to sell it, if you don't have anybody to leave it to. You see how that's different thought straight away? So before I go more into that, I'm going to take a step back from the investment world just a little bit, and we're going to talk about this podcast. We've seen the downloads and a little bit of the listenership of this podcast go up. So with that, I want to let you know that this podcast can since we're small, we can truly be more interactive. So if you have a question or a concern, you want a topic that you want us to talk about, you can email me directly. Okay, you can email me at mike.wren, so it's mike.wren at kmsfinancial.com. So mike.wren. Or is it Michael.wren? No, it's Mike.wren. Yeah. I don't email myself.
If you don't have a paper or a pen with you, I will just put it in the show notes also.
Yeah, so it's a way. Chris and I have more than a decade of experience taking calls live on the air, and a lot of times it's not perfect on this sort of a subject. It's certainly feasible that if somebody sends me a good topic, the whole show will be about your question that you want answered. Because a lot of times it's a lengthy answer and it's a lengthy subject. So don't be afraid to email. We won't, obviously, there's no reason to use somebody's name, so it's always private. And because of rules of my industry, I'm really not allowed to send you any sales things. So if you communicate with me, I will probably communicate back with you, but it's not going to be in a sales-oriented way at all. Case in point, when I used to do seminars, I used to make a point of telling people, remember when we'd have people call into the radio show and say, I don't even need maybe just a name and how many people you're bringing. And I would, we're not trying to get their address. We're not trying to get their email. We're not trying to get their phone number. And when they showed up at the seminar, I promised not to try to touch them in any way, like shake your hand. I'm not going to be at the door shaking your hand, making sure that you fill out the guest book for the new set of snow tires. That's not the way we operate.
The judge said that you can't touch any more people, so I think that's...
Yeah, there is that.
There is that.
But it's nice to say it in a different way.
Oh, okay, sorry. And also, we're not beholden to anybody.
No.
Like, we're not going, hey, you know what? You know what would be a really good one, though? I'm just throwing this out there, but Pfizer would be great, as I'm wearing like a Pfizer jacket and a visor hat or something.
Yeah, and you notice that there's no advertisements that we approve because we have no sponsors and all that. We're not trying to make the podcast our career. This podcast came from us being on the radio for what? 13 years or more?
13, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, lucky 13. We were on the air for 13 years, and so this was basically a function of a lot of clients of mine missing the weekly talk that we would have on the radio. So this is to replace that. So I realize that speech cadence matter, that content matters, and so on and so forth. So let's get back. Do you think give them any other contact information if you think that would be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to know more, just if you're a new listener, you can always go to smartinvestingshow.com, and there's bios of Mike and I, and
I have to update it too. Yeah,
yeah, you do.
I'm really bad about updating that online stuff.
But also, as the producer, if you have time, drop me a line on either the smartinvesting@gmail or Mike's, and just kind of let us know where you're listening and how you're listening. So maybe I can kind of start targeting more towards other places, because basically this podcast we don't have to go, and now here's the traffic or here's the weather. It's like, if you have a question, we can talk about it for 45 minutes total.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to go to other questions. So email all the time. And if you got it doesn't even matter don't be afraid if it's a dumb question, because I'm sure I've beat you at that. So
you're funny.
Many
you're
times.
You're so kind. Yeah, you're so kind to those folks out there. So anyway, let me get back. I just wanted to get that out there to you right in the middle of the show, so it's not just throwaway information at the end. Your questions do matter, because I truly like helping people. It's fun, because I like what I do, and I try to be excellent what I do, just not mediocre. So this issue number 2, where people have said I've heard X amount in bonds, I should have this many in bonds, and I should be more conservative the older that I get, and so on. To me, that information is completely wrong. That advice is completely wrong. What's it based in? it's based on just somebody's age. They're categorizing everybody by age. Let me tell you, go out and look at 100 people that are 60 years old and tell me the differences in body type, in comprehension, in awareness, lifestyle. I think if you were to take 100 people that are 6 years old, it's going to be fairly homogenous. You take them at 16 years old, it's homogenous. 26, pretty much the same. 36, maybe a little bit of a change. At 60, probably the biggest change that you'd ever see, because there's really healthy people that are in their 60s or so, like Pete Carroll, the coach of the Seattle Seahawks, oldest coach in the NFL. You wouldn't know it. So...
No, I wouldn't. That's sports ball, right?
Sports ball. Yeah, they score points.
There's sports points. There's supposed to be a season finale coming up here pretty soon, I heard.
I'm holding my head now, rubbing my brow with my eyes closed, wondering why I'm at the kitchen table with Chris. No. So anyway, they're basing this, it's not even non-advice. It's like culturally acceptable bullshit. And that's exactly what it is. It's culturally acceptable, and it's completely wrong. Okay? It's kind of like people thinking that going outside without a coat on, you're going to catch a cold. No, you're going to get cold. Catching a cold is by a virus, and I don't think they just fly through the air when it's below freezing. But that's just me paying attention to facts. So raising kids,
I don't know where you get your facts.
I'm okay with them getting cold. They're going to learn, you know.
I get my facts from a book that I read in 1930. So.
Cool. Back to the Future. So, what should you do? I don't know what you should do because I don't know you. But the thing is that just giving people this patent advice that's non-advice is harmful because they think that it's true. The journalism community, they oftentimes are the ones that are setting the agenda for whatever topic or whatever argument. And my industry just kind of bloody well goes along with it and just answers the question instead of telling people that the question is stupid, that it's not even applicable. So I don't think I'd make very many people happy if I was on CNBC and they asked me one of those cultural, what's the market? How do you feel about the market this week? Well, since I don't have a crystal ball, I don't frickin' know. Next question.
We'll be right back after this message.
Yeah. I mean, I would want to light their hair on fire. So, asset allocation. Should you own bonds versus stocks? The real question is, are you even an investor? Are you a capable enough of investor to even have investments? Or are you so scaredy cat and so fearful of volatility that you shouldn't have any at all? Because remember, if you're an investor, we're talking rarefied air. You're somebody that lives in a free society that doesn't spend all of the money that you make, and you don't actually put all of it in the bank. You actually invest it for the future. That's rare. You're talking 10% of the population, if that. It's very rare. I understand it. Not everybody should be an investor. A lot of people are much better off putting their money where it doesn't earn anything, but it doesn't give them any risk at all, and just making sure they got all their crap paid off. That is much, 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 much better for most of the population because it's all that they can deal with, okay? Either because of their IQ, because of their emotions, because of experience. It's just the facts. Not everybody's the same, man. Very few people can be an investor. So right off the bat, when I have somebody asking me, well, I've heard that I should be more conservative, I'm thinking if they believe that crap, they might not even be an investor in the first place. If they're actually thinking that, my antenna's up thinking, wow, maybe they should just have all their money at the bank. That's truly what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking what I can sell them. I'm not thinking of some big asset allocation. We put some here and we put some here, and it's so easy to make money that we're going to make money in all these different places. That's also bullshit. It doesn't happen. If it was that easy, everybody would be making money. And apparently everybody's not. So, first question, are you even an investor? That's a big question. Second question is okay, we've determined that you are an investor. What makes you think you have to own all these different asset classes? Some of them suck. Bonds, look at the 100-year average annual return for bonds and look at the 100-year average annual return for, I hate to even say it, but in the S&P 500 index. And then look at what you would have earned by owning, let's say, like Johnson & Johnson for the last 100 years. Or if 100 years seems too fanciful for you, okay, cut it back to 50, because that's probably your age anyway. So cut it to 50 years. So what would you have made in the U.S. government bond market index, corporate bond market index, S&P 500 index, and then look back 50 years at what the price of Johnson & Johnson would be, the ticker symbol's J&J. So, and that's it's not a solicitation to buy or sell. Just look at those numbers. They're going to be markedly different. And if you're looking at making money, there's only going to be a few of them that truly make sense. Okay? Also remember that the last 50 years of those bond indexes, probably some of the best 50-year numbers that you'd ever see, because how many years ago was Reagan in office and Jimmy Carter? Wasn't that like 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Yeah?
I'm doing the math. Yeah, but I'm going to say 40.
Okay, so 40 of the 50 years, we had decreasing interest rates in the United States. So that's a tailwind to the bonds. It's not really important that you know why right now. It's just important that you know that it's so. So we're cherry picking some of the best times for owning bonds and compare it to the other stuff. So me, most of the time for myself and when I'm managing other clients' monies, bonds are a non-starter because they don't make enough. Now, are they less volatile? They can be. They're still volatile, but are they less volatile than owning a common stock? Typically, I guess, yeah. The reason kind of that they're less volatile, they're not priced every day. If you're going to sell an individual bond, you have to call the bond market, your bond trader, and get 3 bids. So they're only priced in a very, very big spectrum of a target when they price your statement at the end of the month. If you are looking at your value every day, I would venture a guess that the value of the bond every day, that I really don't think that they're checking the bond market and marking the bond to market every single day. I think they probably do it maybe twice a month. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't own a hell of a lot of them, and the ones I do own, I don't really care. So do you see how much of a big difference that is? Why do you want to own everything in the world? Why do you want to own all these different asset classes? Is it because my industry is telling you to do so? Remember, my industry is the industry that blew themselves up in 2008. They're the people that I really wouldn't trust with really, really sage advice as to how to be wealthy. Okay?
Because, Mike, if I bet on every horse, then I win.
Yeah.
I still win.
You do, but the cost of the tickets exceeds the amount that you get back.
But in my head, I still win.
That's your head.
But I think that's what we were talking about earlier, is like just your mental.
Yeah. I think it's a lot to do with that. I think it's a lot to do with culture, journalism, my industry. My industry truly trying to sell stuff to people, not really make them wealthy. And it's hard to make somebody wealthy, okay? Wealthy's pretty much up to you. If you own your own business and you're killing it, you're going to make way more money in percentage terms than I'm going to make for you. That's the way it should be, okay? I can't compete with that. You should be talking profit margins and levels of return double and triple and quadruple than what you'd get by investing in common stocks in the stock market. Truly. I'd be more competing with somebody that owns rental houses. That's where I can compete, a lot of the time, because people just like rental houses because you can see them and touch them. It's, and the price isn't printed every day, so they have the perception that it's less volatile. I get it. It's, like I said, investing isn't for everybody. So when I have folks telling me that maybe they should own more bonds, that they're older, I'm thinking either that they truly don't get it, that they truly don't have any level of understanding in the market, or not in the market, in the level of understanding of the investment world, or that they are thinking that they are looking for some more reassurance and or security in some way, and they don't, other than that, they don't know what to ask for. They're either looking for reassurance or security, which might be you. You might be looking for security or reassurance, and you don't know how to get it. You don't know what to ask. You don't know what the key words and phrases are to use, and you don't know if there's a certain way to put your portfolio together that will give you reassurance and security. Okay? The portfolio doesn't lead your brain. The brain leads the portfolio. So I know that I am the one that tries to help you feel more secure and reassured in and of yourself, and then move forward with building an investment portfolio that matches your comprehension and matches your emotional state and emotional behavior. I am more of the opinion that what I want to talk about straight away, it's much more easy to understand than anything else. How much cash should we keep on the sidelines versus how much should we be invested? I'd much rather have your cash position be inordinately high and me to be able to invest exactly the way that I wish, not using any of those controlling words. Well, is it a conservative investment? Is it an aggressive investment? A lot of people don't really know what those things mean anyway. I'd rather just be able to damn well invest properly and try to make money. Sometimes it's a company, maybe like an Amazon, that doesn't pay a dividend. Maybe sometimes it's a company like a Johnson & Johnson, like a Verizon, that does pay a dividend. Maybe it's a combination of the two. But I like to be the ones making those decisions. How does a person come up with a level of cash? Well, with the aging population, the first topic would be, how much money do you think that you're going to spend when you're not working anymore or when you're working less? People's retirements are just as different as their fingerprints. So many people have different expectations. Let's try to meet those. So tell me what your level of expected expenditures are from the investment portfolio, and I can help you come up with that by you telling me what level of income that you want, what your other sources of income will be. Then we'll determine what your investment portfolio needs or would be great if it generated. Not going to fudge the numbers. If it doesn't generate enough, it just doesn't generate enough. But we have to come up with that number. And then if you're going to be new to the retirement scheme or new to the working a lot less scheme, well, then what I try to do is, since we know that we're going to be spending a certain level of money, and we're going to be spending it fairly soon. Now, fairly soon isn't days. It's actually months and years. So I try to have enough cash accumulated for a client before they need it a year to a year and a half to 2 years in advance. So in other words, if you're working before you retire, I want to have at least a year's worth of the income needs that you need in cash. Why? Bad thing is I know keeping it in cash, we're not going to make any money on it. The good thing is no risk at all. Why is the no risk imperative? Because you're going to be changing your life. Other than changing your spouse, what's more upsetting than changing what you do for a living or don't do for a living? What's more anxiety producing? There isn't anything. You changing your lifestyle, in other words, that you don't earn a paycheck anymore from a company, that's an earth-shattering event. It produces a crapload of anxiety. So one of the ways that we can try to get through that anxiety-filled area is to have something that's incredibly easy for you to understand and that you don't have to trust a damn soul out there that you know it's there. And that means a year to a year and a half to 2 years of income in cashola. That cash, you're going to be spending it soon enough that us not earning a return on it is no big deal. No big deal at all. But what the big deal is that you get that income, and you know if the market's going down, you know that cash isn't going down. You're going to be extremely, I wouldn't say extremely happy, but you're going to be reassured to a great degree that that income for the transition period is already set aside. And like I said, spending it within the first year or two That's soon in the investment world. I don't want to take any risk with it. I'd rather just have it in cash, have it set aside. I don't have to worry about it. I can actually worry about something that I can affect change. It's hard for me to affect change in just a 2-year time period. Anyway, that's it for the show. I think we're kind of done with the meat of it. Let me put out a disclaimer that, let's see, I mentioned Johnson & Johnson, I mentioned Verizon, I mentioned
Pfizer.
Yeah, you mentioned Pfizer. What else?
If you invest in anything that I say, welcome to the show.
Anyway,
you shouldn't do that.
I spoke of different indexes. I spoke of different companies on this podcast. They are not solicitations to do anything, to buy or sell. They are just topics of discussion. That's it.
Familiar topics. So
yeah, familiar names. Yeah. Anyway, so if you have any questions, if you have a topic that you want me to cover, easiest thing in the world, just email me. mike.wren at kmsfinancial.com gets it straight away to me.
And I'll have that in the show notes as well, so just in case you...
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back again in another week.
Any opinions expressed herein are given in good faith and are subject to change without notice and are correct only on the stated date of issue. Past performance is not always indicative of future results. This material is not intended as an offer or solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security or other financial instrument. Security, financial instruments, or strategies mentioned may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, or income from any investment mentioned in this report may fall against the interest of the investor, and the investor may get back less than the amount invested. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as a recommendation of particular securities, financial instruments, or strategies to you. Before acting on any recommendation on this material, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular circumstances and, if necessary, seek professional advice.